All right, I think I'm finally ready to share birth story of the girls. I was gonna record this in the house, but it was a little hectic. So this is the first time I'm actually running errands myself since having them, and figured car lighting is usually the best anyways, and it's just a place that I can have to myself to explain everything. But yeah, I felt like with Parker being in the NICU for a few weeks, it wasn't, like, my whole birth story wasn't complete without both of them home. So now that both of them are home, I feel like I'm ready to share their story. Both being home is just like, it's so nice having both of them home. Seriously, that was like really stressful to have them separated. And I felt bad. Like, I felt like Parker's first few weeks was just her in a rotating spot of people who, like, she didn't know, and like obviously they cared for her. The NICU nurses are angels and amazing, but like June was home just getting all this love and attention, and then Parker we would go see every single day, but it just felt like so unfair. So to have them both home is the best feeling. It's definitely a lot more work with two. We got like a taste of the life with one, and now with two it's definitely an adjustment, but wouldn't trade it for anything. So birth story, I'm excited to share. The birth was absolutely beautiful. I recorded like a short version of this that I was going to share on TikTok, and I couldn't stop crying through it. So hopefully I'm a little bit more removed time-wise now from it, so that I can get through the story a little bit more eloquently, but we'll see. Okay, so they were born on August 8th, 8/8, which was really cute because, one, we really liked that number for multiple different reasons, but we liked that it was 8/8. I feel like it's just a good twin number to have, two of the same. But it was also my mom's dad's birthday and my mom's grandpa's birthday, so it was just extra special that they were born on that day. And we really didn't think they would make it because I was induced starting in the afternoon then, and a lot of times when you're induced it can take a really long time. So we were happy, well, one, that my labor was shorter, and two, that they made that 8/8 date. So I'll get into the full story. So the week leading up to their birth, I had some irregular blood work. So I was in and out of the hospital pretty much every single day for a full week. I had my platelets were low, so I got steroid shots for that, and then I had protein in my urine, so they were really worried about preeclampsia. I went in legit like every day for a week, and the doctors were monitoring me super closely with non-stress tests and blood work. And then Sunday night I really started to feel so nauseous, and I had a headache and all these symptoms, and the next day went in for some more monitoring, and we decided that I should be induced on Tuesday, which was 8/8. And I was 37 weeks plus 2 days pregnant at that time. So that was kind of the timeline reasoning as to why I was induced. And for twins, that is past term, so at least we were happy that we were in more of a safe zone with that. Obviously Parker did end up still being in the NICU for some irregular breathing stuff, but she's good and strong. But yes, so I was very excited to give birth, very scared, but I was very happy, like excited to also not be humongous and pregnant and uncomfortable anymore, and I just wanted to meet the girls so bad. So I was like really excited. But also, like I said, terrified, like just especially being my first time. I just had no idea what it was gonna be like. And obviously I've heard some scary stories, and with induction I was like, is this gonna take 5 days? Is this gonna take a few hours? Like, what's gonna happen? Okay, I wrote down all of the exact times so I could remember it. But yeah, so I'll go through like the entire list of things. So week before, monitored every day, low platelets, protein in my urine. Oh, I did get steroid shots to help with those platelets, which did help, but still needed to be induced early just because of some risks. So Tuesday, 8/8, the day our girls made their entrance into the world. I arrived at noon to the hospital, Dave and I did. We did another non-stress test and some more blood work, and then started Pitocin at 1:30. Wasn't really feeling contractions, even though the monitor was showing me having contractions. and I think I was at level 15, still wasn't really feeling anything. I ordered food, had a burger all during that time. So because I wasn't feeling anything, we wanted to get things moving. So at 5:40, the doctor came in and broke my water. And then after that is when things started moving very quickly. Like, I really started to feel those like, I started to feel contractions intensely. Those suckers are interesting. Those like really strong. And they started to get faster together, or quicker, less time apart, and more intense. So was really feeling the contractions, and then I had always planned on getting an epidural. I knew that was something I wanted in my journey, but for some reason, once the contractions really started to get intense, I don't know why I was like second guessing myself. Dave kept being like, Jacqueline, like, you can ask for it, you know you wanted it, like, because I kept joking the entire time before I gave birth. I was like, I'm gonna walk in the hospital and just say, give me that epi, like, right away. But once I really started to feel the contractions, I don't know what went on in my brain of like feeling less than if I asked for it, or like having like an issue of pride, or just curiosity of wanting to see how far I could go, how like much pain I could take. But finally I did decide to ask for the epidural, and so that was given to me at 7:20. And that was another thing, I was so nervous for the epidural. I was freaking out for some reason, just kept being like, is it gonna hurt? Like, I don't know, I just, once again, had heard some horror stories with that too, but I was so nervous for it for some reason. But once I got it, like, the contractions were so intense and strong that I was so focused on those that the epidural didn't really feel like anything. And my nurse during the time was also amazing. She helped me do sideline, and she like massaged my hips, and just helping the baby get into place and kind of help me breathe through them. But her and Dave were just like really, really supportive throughout the entire thing. I got the epidural at 7:20, and like I said, I had built it up so much in my head. I was so scared, and it wasn't bad at all. I was just so focused on the contractions. And then once that finally kicked in, I took the best nap of my entire life. Like, it honestly was so nice to take a nap after that. It was just incredible. And kudos to people who don't do an epidural, but I'm so glad I did one. It was night and day, the pain, and also like you're completely numb. Like, it's honestly insane. Like, you're literally waist down, you feel nothing. You can't lift your legs, you can't do anything. It was crazy. But I had a really nice nap, and then the nurse came back in after a couple hours, and I forget what she was doing down there, but she was doing something, and she's like, should I just check, see how dilated you were? Because I think before, when I had come in, or the day before, I was only like 2 or 3 centimeters dilated. And I was like, yeah, just check. She like assumed that I wouldn't be very far along because it was only a few hours. And she was like, oh damn, girl, like, you are fully 10 centimeters dilated, like, you are ready to go. And I was like, oh shit, okay, let's fucking do this, baby. And she's like, I gotta go get like the doc. So the OB came in, she checked, and she had me like do like a little push, and she's like, oh yeah, we gotta get you to the OR, we are ready. And so it was time. Like, I literally just woke up from my nap, and they're like, it's time to have your fucking babies. And so I was just ready to go. They took me to the OR, and for multiples too, a lot of people had questions on this. For multiples, you always deliver in the operating room. That's why you saw like Dave was in scrubs, I had hairnet on and all that stuff, because for twins, it is a high risk pregnancy, but it's high risk that one is going to flip, even though I forgot to put my wallet in this little pocket. I'm like a kangaroo. It's a high risk that one would flip after the other comes out, or however many you have. For me, it was obviously just 2. So if one came out, even though they're both head down to start, because there's more room, the other one could have flipped. So that's why they have you in the operating room, just in case that does happen. So went to the operating room, and then I don't know, like, I was just in like a silly, goofy, like, I was just in a silly fucking goofy mood. Like, I just kept cracking jokes, and I don't know, like, I think that's what I do when I'm nervous, is I just talk a lot and make jokes. And so it was really coming out there. And also I was really happy because, so I didn't have my actual OB that I had been working with this whole time deliver, because she wasn't on call during that time. She did stop by and say hi to me in the room before. The OB who did deliver was fantastic. And then this other doctor that I was working with really closely the last last week in maternal fetal medicine doing all my blood work and stuff like that. He was able to be there too, which really made me feel more at ease. He has just like the most calming energy. So I had an amazing team between like the nurses, the doctors, everybody. I just felt like I was and Dave, I felt like I was in very, very good hands, which relieved some of that anxiety, but still letting it out through like random ass jokes. And like, I don't know why I couldn't stop laughing at certain things. And then we got in there, it's time to push. And I don't know how long it all took. The entire process, like birthing both girls, both placentas, and kind of bleeding out a little bit, took like an hour total. But got in there, started to push. I think it was like 8 or 10 contractions that I pushed through. And then June was born. And I'm trying really hard not to cry right now. She was born at 10:07. And it's pretty crazy. You can't like feel anything while you're pushing with an epidural. So that mind-body connection is very interesting when it goes away. So that was kind of weird to like get over. But once she was born, it was just like you could feel the instant relief of my belly. I turned to Dave, I was like, I can breathe. Like, it was crazy. But then she was born at 10:07. You saw her just come out and you heard her cry, and then they put her on my chest immediately, and Dave got to cut the cord. And it was just, I'm sorry. I brought tissues because I knew this was gonna happen. June was born at 10:07, and we hadn't named them yet. It was still baby A, baby B. It was just like the most beautiful thing. And now just like thinking of them being in my life, like I just can't imagine them not being in my life. And it was like, literally they've only been alive for not even a month, and I just like, okay. And then after, I'm really trying not to cry and like make it through this full video. Now my upper lip is sweating and my lower lip. Okay. After June was born, perfect little angel number 1. It was time to check for Parker. And so the doctor, they had an ultrasound in there, and like I said, the concern is that one is going to flip and be breech. And so he ultrasounded me. Parker was still head down, and so it was time to push for her, and the doctor literally like pushed her down with his hands to kind of keep her in position so she wouldn't flip when I started to push again. And then she was born exactly 15 minutes later at 10:22. And then Parker came out, and you just heard her crying, and then they lay them directly on your chest. Dave got to cut the cord, and I'm honestly impressed with how much I'm holding this together. The first few times I tried to record this, the short version, I was like, could not stop crying. So I feel like I'm getting better at telling the story without crying the entire time through. But I just like, it was just like amazing. Like, it was truly the most magical thing in the world to see both of them just come out. And like, I was just so happy that they were okay. Like, I was so worried that they weren't gonna be okay. And to finally like see them and get to hold them and see Dave see them the way like he was looking at them. Sorry, I just need to breathe. Truly was like the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced. And then the nurses were amazing. They just like immediately grabbed my phone and started taking photos. The nurse had told me prior to, she was like, turn your phone on, your photos on live, because you're not allowed to take videos in the OR, but live photos, you can download them as videos. So all the videos I have are from live photos, which was amazing because you can hear the sound and like everything that was going on too. So the fact that we get to have that moment recorded is really special, and I've watched it like a million times. But they were fantastic. And then I had to birth out the 2 placentas, and then I was just on such an adrenaline high. Like, I was so happy and like just on one. I didn't even really notice what was happening, but I guess I had blood clots in my uterus. So I started to bleed out there, and Dave was like, yeah, there was so much blood coming out. And he was like above me too. He didn't go down and look, and they asked me too if I wanted a mirror, and I was like, I'm good. But he could see like all the blood coming out, and he was like, it was insane, like how much blood. And so I did hemorrhage. I lost 1 liter of blood, and I feel like I didn't even feel the effects until like they still gave me my girls, and I was holding them and rolled back to the room. And then that's when I guess like I still kept bleeding out, and they were trying to decide if they should do a blood transfusion or if they should just give me all this medication. And my blood pressure was really, really high. Once again, they were still worried about preeclampsia. I don't know if I had it or if I was on the track to have it. I don't really know. But they they went with like the medication route, so they pumped me with all these meds, and then the side effects from that were like insane. Like for hours I was shaking like non-stop. I was freezing cold. They were covering me with blankets, like warm blankets, all night long. I couldn't do anything. Like I could barely talk. I couldn't lift my body. I couldn't make any movement. And then they would have to come in every like 40 minutes and press really hard on my uterus, and I just remember like moaning like, oh, like it just hurt so bad because they were trying to like see all the blood that was coming out. And Dave, I just remember he was like sitting right next to me the entire time, just holding my hand, and it was just really scary. And I couldn't even hold my girls, and that part was really hard. Like I just felt like I was so out of body. Like I was just laying there, and I could see them taking care of the girls, and like Dave going back and forth between me and them, and there's like nothing I could do. I couldn't talk. I couldn't like say anything. And I was like pretty scared there for a sec. But it was a long night. Dave looked at his Oura ring after, and he slept a total of like 31 minutes or something, because he was just like awake helping me and the girls the entire time. I don't know what I would have done without him like by my side. Like all I could do is be like, water, and he would just bring me my Stanley. Also, Stanley is like a really important thing to bring to the hospital, or like a water bottle that has a straw. But that part was really scary, and I guess traumatic. But honestly, like if you were to ask if I had a positive birth story, I would say yes, because the birth was like truly the most beautiful thing like I've just ever experienced. Like it's something that like I will forever remember, and I'm like so grateful that it was such a positive experience. Like I don't even really remember the after effects, because like when I think of the birth, I think of those what, like 1:30 to 10:22, like that like 9 hours. What is that? I can't do math in my head right now. But like when I think of the birth, that's what I think of, not the after. Like I think of like getting to like push and them being born 15 minutes apart on 8/8, and getting to hold them and getting Dave to like see them. Like that's what I remember, and it was just like the best moment of like my entire life, getting to meet both of them. I guess 2 moments. Oh my god. But yeah, and then the next day early they wheeled me to like the postpartum room, which was a good sign that I was like stable. I was like really weak after that. Like I was literally see-through. Like I was so pale, I looked like a ghost, and I still couldn't really function. Like the next day I couldn't really hold the babies. I think towards the end of the day I finally got to hold them, because I felt like I could lift myself up, and that was really hard, honestly, not being able to like bond with them right away. And then they were with us those 3 days in the hospital, and they were doing great. We like got to spend time with them. After like 3 days I took my first shower, and it was the best ever. Like I felt like a new human after that. And then when we were going to check out Friday for preemies, they do a car seat test where they have to sit in a car seat for 90 minutes to make sure that their oxygen levels are steady. And June passed, which we were happy about. And then Parker failed her test, so they did a bassinet test, which is the same thing, and a bassinet, and she failed that too. And we were just really surprised and caught off guard, because one, Parker is the bigger one, like June's smaller than her, and two, they were fine like for those 3 days with us, and like all the other tests like they did great on and everything. So we were just so surprised. And so then she had to go to the NICU for a little bit, and we thought it would just be a day, then 2 days, and then it ended up being 2 weeks. And that was emotionally, like, honestly one of the toughest things, having to have her be there and June be home, and like the balance of caring for one at home and visiting the other in the hospital, and the guilt of not getting to be there for Parker like all the time, and then also like June. And it was just emotional having them apart from each other in general too. And I'm so grateful for like Dave and my family was out here during that time, because I feel like they made it so that I was okay and so that the girls were okay, and they were just so supportive and helpful. But she had some irregular breathing patterns, so basically she would just kind of like forget to breathe sometimes and hold her breath, and she needed to mature. But it was really hard seeing her with just like oxygen tubes in her nose and that kind of stuff. But she's a fighter and strong, and she aced her test, even though it took her 2 weeks to keep on moving. And now she's been home with us, and seeing her and June together like already just makes me so happy. And that's basically the full story. I'm just adjusting to mom life with 2 kids at this point, and my mom left yesterday and I cried a lot because I really loved having her here, and I'm just so grateful for everything that she did for us. And like, Dave's mom is here now for a week, and I'm really happy for her too. I mean, really happy to have her here, but I'm just like, we're still in that transition period of trying to figure everything out and create a routine, and not getting much sleep, as I'm sure most of you would expect at this time with 2 newborns. But I just like couldn't be more in love with them, and getting to see Dave as a dad is like one of the best things I could ever describe. I knew he'd be a good dad, but like getting to see him actually be their dad is like, it just like makes me really, really happy that he's my partner in this. But that's pretty much the whole story. I think I did a pretty good job of not entirely crying throughout the whole thing, but thank you guys all for your sweet messages, and I tried to respond to as many as I could, but obviously I'm a little busy. But I really am trying to respond to as many, and all of the really nice messages too from other twin moms and NICU moms, and all of that is just, it really did help me, like emotionally. It really, really, really did help me, and I'm sorry if I haven't gotten to respond to yours. I do my best to respond to everybody, but just know that like it means a lot, and I really want to keep sharing my journey and be as realistic as possible, sharing my postpartum body, which felt really vulnerable for me. Like I know I'd look different than I did before, and I'm just trying to embrace the new me and not like necessarily compare to the old me, just kind of bounce forward rather than bouncing back mentality. And when I look at myself, just remind myself that like this is what brought me my 2 babies, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. And I'm just like, the only choice I have is to be grateful for my body, because it literally created these 2 perfect babies for us. And so the self-love journey is like a journey on its own that's never ending, but it's easy to just look at the girls and be reminded of like, our bodies are so powerful, and like watching it change throughout this process has just been a trip. It's just really, really wild. But I love you guys. I feel like, I don't know if this was all over the place or if this was actually like a well said linear story, but thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the support. If you have any questions, leave them below. I want to answer as many things as possible and just be open throughout this journey so that we can help each other and feel vulnerable and accepted and loved and transparent. So thank you guys for giving me a safe space to do so. I love you, and thanks for listening.